From the Territorial Statehouse State Park Museum in Fillmore, Utah, the Utah Territory's first capital, you're listening to the Old Capitol Podcast, brought to you by the Friends of the Territorial Statehouse and Utah Pioneer Heritage Arts.
Welcome to the Old Capitol Podcast. I'm Clive Romney, your host for the day, and with me today is Marshall Miller. Marshall, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Clive, for having me. What a great place, what a great studio, and I love what you're doing here. So great to be here.
Now, you don't look like a man who has a death wish or is terminally depressed. What is it that motivates you to jump off high places?
Well, thanks for noticing that. The first thing people expect when they talk to a guy like me is this guy must be an adrenaline junkie or a guy with a death wish or a thrill seeker. And I reckon I'm quite a responsible human. I've got a wife and 2 kids, and I have every reason in the world to continue living this life and want to make the most of it. And so,
now, what's your wife's name?
My wife's name is Nicole Miller, high school sweetheart. Love her to death.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Nicole, thanks for loaning us Marshall this time.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you get into this?
So wingsuit flying and base jumping is random enough. I've always been drawn to human flight, that people can actually fly an airplane. The Wright brothers, that they built something that could fly and propel themselves. People can now cross oceans and we can visit other continents. So the art of flight in general is something that is awesome. And it's so cool just in the last 50 years what type of progression we've made and the capabilities to fly. And, why not start flying a hang glider? Why not start flying a wingsuit? Why not start jumping out of an airplane and safely be able to deploy a parachute?
So did you start with a hang glider?
I started at the point of the mountain. So the famous place here in Utah, we have this point of the mountain where there's always nice wind and we can ridge soar around on a paraglider or a hang glider, either way. And I saw this about 15 years ago and got into it. I live right next to the place. And since then, I realized that not only can you hang glide, you can skydive, you can jump out of a plane with a wingsuit, you can jump off the side of a mountain and safely, save yourself, so to speak. And so I was fascinated by this stuff and decided to learn how to skydive, which is jumping out of a plane. Did that quite a lot. And I actually loved it so much that when I used to be in real estate, long story short, when the real estate economy kind of crashed in 2008, I said, what a better time. There's no better time than now to actually do something that I love in life. And so the last 10 years have really been a pursuit of happiness, if you will, and a pursuit of being able to do this for a living. And, it's crazy to think that there could be a living out there to be a professional base jumper or a wingsuiter, but yeah, here we are. So still smiling.
Do you get sponsors for this?
Yeah, exactly. We've aligned with a handful of sponsors out there that have kind of supported this lifestyle and enabled us to go out there and live this life that is so fulfilling to us and so rewarding, at least at the time being. It's the most fun thing that I've found so far in life. And I've tried a lot of things, and this experience or this feeling for some reason really gives you the sense of being alive.
Now, where can we go to see you? Not live, but recorded doing this. Good
question. Social media these days is quite a thing. So any social channel, Instagram is probably the best place. Marshall _Miller, Facebook, YouTube. Just Google Marshall Miller, and there's a handful of good videos on there that will share the experience, at least that I'm capturing, and hopefully it's portrayed through these YouTube videos and images.
So when you do your jumps and flights, do you have a camera mounted on you?
Yeah, you bet. So, one of our big sponsors and supporters is actually GoPro. And they make these cameras. And, at any given point, I'll wear a handful of cameras. I'll wear some 360 cameras. And it's really cool for us because we're able to take this experience home and view it on the computer, watch it on the TV, and kind of relive it. But it's also cool that we can share this experience now with a lot of people out there don't have a desire to jump off the side of a mountain. And, the years and years that go into it, you included. Yeah, exactly. So it's so nice. It's a bit fulfilling that I can show these videos to a gentleman like yourself, and you can say or see, like, wow, there's people that are actually doing this out in the world, and hopefully that puts a smile on your face and inspires some people out there to think outside or think a little bit larger to go chase something that they're passionate about.
Do you have to stay in shape to do this?
Oh, it helps. It helps for sure. Have a strong physical body enables a strong physical mind. And it's good to stay fit. To hike around these mountains, it's anywhere from 1 to 5 hours of a climb or an approach to get on top of these massive cliffs. And when you get up there, you need to be feeling fit and still have a sharp mind, because the crux or the highlight of what you're going to be doing on this any given day before the wingsuit flight is when you actually put the wingsuit on and you walk towards the edge of a cliff, and you really have to be in this perfect headspace of balanced fear, emotions, risk analysis, calculations, skill, athleticism. All this stuff kind of culminates into one moment, just as you prepare to step off the side of the mountain.
Tell me about your father.
Yeah, great question. My father, Kim Miller, what a stud. This guy is love him to death. He's my biggest role model in life.
Did he jump off high cliffs?
No, but here's the good thing. He climbed all these high cliffs. So he grew up as a professional rock climber for many, many years. He's climbed El Cap in Yosemite, Half Dome in Yosemite, some of these massive 5,000-foot vertical walls. He's scaled these a handful of times. And so I feel like growing up with him, he would take me rock climbing all the time, and I would be on top of these mountains and exposed. He would take me ice climbing, and it was just everyday life. I felt like I thought I was just a normal kid. Like, yeah, my dad climbs these, and I go with him on the weekends, and happy days, everything's good. But it turns out later in life, as I have the perspective now to look back and realize, wow, Dad, way to go. You really put a spark there that sure is, flaming right now.
Okay, now why Notch Peak down in Millard County?
So Notch Peak in the House Range is the tallest vertical relief cliff, one of the top 10 tallest vertical cliffs in the U.S. At one point, it was measured next to El Cap in Yosemite, some of these big cliffs, and it's right up there.
What's the vertical drop, approximately?
On Notch Peak, it's a 3,500-foot vertical cliff. And so for a base jumper wingsuiter like myself, that just puts a big smile on my face to think a cliff that's so big, you can jump off of this thing and have a 1-minute wingsuit flight, which doesn't sound like long, but it's 1 minute flying through the air at 150 miles an hour. And especially Notch Peak, it just really lines up to be a perfect wingsuit flight. The cliff is tall enough on top to jump off and build up some airspeed as you're falling to inflate the wingsuit. And at that point, it starts to fly. And the wingsuit itself gets a 3-to-1 glide ratio. And so let me explain that real quick. So a 3-to-1 glide ratio is you're moving forward 3 feet and only losing a foot. And so it's quite efficient. And this is just the span of our arms and our legs. And so it's pretty amazing. And the cliff lines up so nice out there as it's talus down towards the car and the base of the mountain. It's at this perfect angle that our wingsuits can match. And so we're able to really fly next to the ground the majority of the flight. And, that's what we like it out there. It's flying next to the ground is also the most dangerous, but it's also the most intense sense of living that I feel like is out there. As you pass a tree or a rock or a bush or a friend, 150 miles an hour, you sure get the sense of the speed that we're actually flying at.
My goodness.
So, pretty fun.
So after you've done the 60 seconds of wingsuit flying, what's the next step?
After you do the 60 seconds of wingsuit flying, we fly so fast and with so much power in these suits, we're able to flare up, and we flare up to about 500 feet above the ground and reach back and deploy a base jumping parachute. And so we reach back with one hand, deploy the parachute out there, it safely comes over your head, and flip your goggles up and you're smiling at this point. The fun part of the flight is behind you. The dangerous part of the flight is behind you. Now really you just need to focus on flying this big school bus style parachute and hopefully land right next to the car and all your buds down there and give them a big high five and a hug, and what a day.
That's amazing. Well, Marshall Miller, I never want to try what you do, but it's exhilarating to kind of relive the experience with you.
Well, thank you.
And I look forward to looking at the videos online.
Thanks a lot, Clive. Yeah, thanks so much. Great to be here.
Thank you, Marshall.
All right.
We'll see you next time, or you can listen to us next time on the Old Capitol Podcast.
Subscribe to our podcast at oldcapitalstoryfest.com. That's capital CAPITOL. Visit our website to dive deeper into our weekly stories and to find other folks who love history, heritage, and modern pioneering. And join us next week to meet another friend and hear another story.
I'm still here where stories never end.